Only 1% understand what it means to be a dark chosen one. From the outside, you might look like someone just going through life like everyone else. You might be the one who's quiet in the room, the one who doesn't need the spotlight, the one who often watches more than speaks. But if we could dive beneath the surface of your presence, if we could peel back the mask you've had to wear just to survive, we'd find something ancient, something raw and unexplainable, something that doesn't belong to this world as it is, but to the one that's coming. That's what makes you different. That's why nothing ever quite made sense in the normal world. Because you weren't built for the illusion. You were encoded to dismantle it. And the weight you've been carrying your entire life, that was never just yours. That was the frequency of a universe trying to remember itself through you. This journey doesn't start in light. It starts in fracture, in pain, in confusion, in a childhood that didn't feel like childhood, or in parents who didn't understand you, in a world that felt like it was always asking you to shrink, conform, dim, or disappear. And instead of fighting it, you learned how to disappear in plain sight. You learned how to protect what they couldn't understand. You learned how to survive by hiding your fire. But that fire never left. It just waited behind your eyes, waited beneath your silence, waited under the layers of shame and doubt and what's wrong with me. Because it knew something you didn't. You were being prepared. Being a dark chosen one means being invited into the truth before the world is ready for it.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound spiritual lesson.
It means being cracked open by pain, not because you're broken, but because your soul made a contract that it would walk through the fire first, so that others would have a path. That's why your life has never been easy. That's why you've wrestled with depression, anxiety, isolation, even madness. That's why you've questioned your worth, doubted your purpose, begged the universe for answers and heard nothing but silence. Because the initiation of the dark chosen one isn't loud. It's not ceremonial. It doesn't happen in temples with robes and incense. It happens in the dark, in the bathroom floor moments, the sleepless nights, in the relationships that collapse, the identities that shatter, the spiritual awakenings that feel more like death than rebirth. And yet somehow you're still here, breathing, listening, watching this. That's not just resilience. That's remembrance. A part of you has always known you were different, not better, not above, but designed for something deeper, for something harder, for something more sacred. You didn't come here to play the game. You came here to flip the board and build a new one. But to do that, you had to lose everything that wasn't true. You had to be stripped of comfort, validation, identity. Because if you had built your life on illusion, you would have missed the assignment. That assignment isn't glamorous. It's not about being a guru or a star or someone people worship. It's about becoming a frequency so coherent, so grounded, so real, that everything false in your field starts to disintegrate. You don't even have to speak. Your presence alone becomes a transmission. That's what makes you dangerous to the matrix. Because you're not trying to fix the system. You're becoming so unshakably true that the system starts to unravel around you. That's why so many people misunderstand you, push you away, project onto you, because your energy activates what they're still hiding from themselves. So let me ask you something that only a dark chosen one will understand at the deepest level. What have you survived that wasn't just about survival, but about becoming a vessel of remembrance for others? What if the abuse, the betrayal, the abandonment, the trauma, what if none of it was evidence of your weakness, but evidence of your capacity? What if you were chosen because your soul knew it could take the hit, hold the frequency, and still keep its heart open? This isn't romantic. It's not a fantasy. It's brutal grace. It's spiritual war disguised as human suffering. And the reason only 1% understand it is because most people don't have the nervous system capacity to hold this level of truth. But you've been forged in it. You've cried in it. You've meditated on it. You've written poetry to your pain, and it wrote back in codes your mind couldn't quite translate, but your soul understood instantly. We don't get to walk this path and stay innocent. We don't get to be chosen and stay small. Because choosing this path means dying to every version of ourselves that was built to please, to perform, to be palatable. It means letting go of the comfort of being misunderstood and stepping into the responsibility of being undeniably seen. Because when you stop hiding, when you let yourself be fully embodied, not everyone will celebrate you. Some will leave. Some will attack. Some will try to pull you back into the illusion. But that's the moment you know you're finally walking in your truth, because illusion always resists what's real. Being a dark chosen one means walking between worlds. It means having one foot in the unseen and one foot in the chaos of the collapsing reality. It means being able to see the codes in people who can't even see themselves. It means being able to hold space for someone's pain without rescuing them, because you know that pain is the portal. It means being willing to be alone, not because you don't love deeply, but because your frequency is so rare, only the aligned can stay. And when they do, when you find others like you, something sacred happens. The grid activates. The field lights up. Soul families begin to remember each other not through words, but through resonance. And in those moments you realize you were never alone. You were just early. You were the map maker, the code carrier, the one who agreed to hold the door open while everyone else was still asleep. But now people are waking up, fast. And they're looking for the ones who have already walked through the fire. They're looking for you, not the version of you that's pretending to be okay. The version of you that knows what it means to fall apart and still rise with integrity. The version that doesn't just talk about transformation but embodies it. That's the version the world needs now, not the perfect you. The present you. So I'll ask you again, what if you stopped waiting to feel ready and started living like the one who already knows they were chosen? What if you stopped performing healing and started embodying remembrance? What if you stopped trying to be light and started owning your darkness as the place where all true light is born? Because here's the truth, the world doesn't change through information. It changes through frequency, through embodied signals, through people who have turned their wounds into wisdom, their pain into presence, their trauma into truth. And you, beloved, are one of them. You always have been. You just forgot for a while, but that forgetting was part of the plan. Because the remembering wouldn't mean anything if you hadn't first been buried beneath the illusion. And now that you remember, there's no going back. There is a type of light that doesn't come from the sun, or from stars, or from anything you can see with your eyes. It's a light forged in shadow, a light born in collapse, a light that only reveals itself when everything you thought you were has fallen away. That light is the frequency of the fire, the vibration of a soul that has walked through death, grief, betrayal, abandonment, madness, and hell, and still came back not empty, but full. Full of codes, full of clarity, full of the kind of power that can't be bought, taught, or faked. That light is the frequency of the dark chosen ones. And when you embody that light, you don't need to convince anyone of anything. You become a living transmission not of perfection, but of presence, of what it means to be fully human and fully divine at the same time. And only 1% will truly understand what that means. Not because the others are less, but because they haven't yet burned in the fire long enough to remember what they are made of. You see, the world has taught us to fear the fire, to run from the pain, to avoid the dark, to numb anything that isn't easy, pretty, or instantly gratifying. But what they don't tell you, what they can't tell you, because it would dismantle the illusion, is that the fire isn't here to destroy you. It's here to refine you, to burn off everything you thought was you. So what's left is what's eternally true. The fire doesn't take your soul, it gives it back. And the reason only a few ever embody this truth is because the fire requires everything. It doesn't let you negotiate. It doesn't care about your comfort. It doesn't care about your excuses. It only wants one thing, the real you. The one beneath the masks, the one beneath the trauma, the one beneath the performance. And the moment you stop resisting and surrender to that fire, something ancient activates inside you. Something primal, something holy, something unmistakably sovereign. That's when you begin to emit a frequency that can't be explained but only felt. People look at you and can't quite name what's different, but they feel it. They feel more honest around you. They feel more awake, more clear, or more confronted. Some will be drawn to you like a magnet. Others will run. But neither reaction is about you. It's about what your frequency reveals in them. Because when you've transmuted your darkness into light, your very presence becomes a mirror. And most people don't want to see themselves. They want to stay asleep. They want to stay safe. They want to stay in control. But you shattered all of that. Not by choice, but by destiny. And that's the part that only the 1% will understand. That this wasn't a path you chose with your mind. This was a soul contract, a cosmic agreement. And you said yes to carrying the codes of the new world, even if it meant losing everything in the old one. You said yes to walking in the dark so others could find the light. You said yes to being misunderstood, misjudged, and mistaken because truth is rarely recognized when it first arrives. You said yes to the loneliness, the isolation, the silence, not because you enjoy suffering, but because you were being initiated into a frequency so rare, so real, that most people can't even hold it for a second without breaking down. That's not arrogance. That's energetic reality. So let me ask you something you may have never allowed yourself to fully receive. What if your darkness was never meant to be healed, but revealed? What if your shadow isn't the enemy, but the entrance? What if the parts of you that still ache, that still crave, that still carry rage and shame and guilt, What if those are the parts of you that hold the deepest codes of liberation? Not because they're pretty, not because they're easy, but because they're real. And realness is the rarest vibration on this planet right now. Everyone wants to look healed, to look awakened, or to look like enlightenment. But you didn't come here to look like anything. You came here to be something, and that something is unmistakably true. Being a dark chosen one means you stopped negotiating with your soul. You stopped compromising your truth to fit into a system that was always designed to keep you asleep. You stopped diluting your fire to make others comfortable. And that choice came with a price. You lost friends. You lost lovers. You lost identities that once made you feel safe. But in their place, you found something unbreakable, a stillness, a clarity, a knowing. And that knowing doesn't always speak in words. Sometimes it speaks in silence, in presence, in energy, in the way you walk into a room and shift it without saying a thing. That's not magic, that's mastery. And it was earned in the fire. And now that you carry that fire inside you, the question becomes, what are you doing with it? Are you hiding it? Are you pretending to be smaller than you are? Are you waiting for permission to shine? Or are you walking as the flame, unapologetically, even if it makes others uncomfortable? Because let me tell you something that very few will dare say out loud. The world is starving for your fire. Not your performance, not your perfection. Your raw, untamed, unfiltered fire. The fire of someone who has faced their own abyss and didn't turn away. The fire of someone who has felt the full weight of their shadow and chose to own it instead of run from it. The fire of someone who knows that darkness isn't the opposite of light, it's the womb of it. And when you live from that place, when you stop trying to be light and start embodying the frequency of the fire, you become dangerous to every system built on illusion. You become immune to manipulation. Because you can see through it, you become immune to shame. Because you've already transmuted it. You become immune to fear, not because you don't feel it, but because you've made peace with it. You've sat with it. You've held it. You've become intimate with your own edges. And that intimacy, that's what makes you powerful. Not the absence of pain, but the integration of it. So what would happen if you stopped trying to fix yourself and started revealing yourself? What would happen if you stopped waiting to be ready and started living as if you are the one you've been waiting for? What would happen if you stopped negotiating your fire and started walking as it, even if no one clapped for it, even if they judged it, even if they left? Because here's the truth, the people who are meant to walk with you won't be intimidated by your fire. They'll be lit by it. They'll be activated by it. They'll remember who they are because you remembered who you are. That's the ripple effect. That's how timelines shift. Not with information, with embodiment. With people who don't just talk about healing, but live it. With people who don't just study truth, but become it. With people who don't just pray for change, but are the change. And you, beloved, you are one of them. Not because you're special, but because you're available. Available to hold the frequency. Available to walk the path. Available to stand in your own fire and let it burn away everything false. This is what it means to be a dark chosen one. You are not here to escape the world. You are here to rebuild it from within. You are not here to be saved. You are here to become the signal that saves others. Not with words, with presence, with truth, with fire. That's why your life has been what it's been. That's why the pain hurt as much as it did. That's why the silence felt so endless. Because you weren't being punished. You were being prepared. And now it's time to walk as the frequency you came here to anchor. So I'll ask you one final question for this part of the journey. If your fire was no longer something to tame, but something to trust, what would you create, destroy, embody, or become? If you allowed your darkness to become your light, not by bypassing it, but by alchemizing it, what would be possible? That's not a hypothetical. That's the next level of your path. And only you can walk it.